Welcome back to Farming Simulator, and today we're going to have a look at dealing with weeds and the effect it has on the yield you get from your crop. So we're just going to have a quick look at the settings that I've got set up. Seasonal growth is off, 1 day per month, fixed visual month, crop destruction off, periodic ploughing on, and I've just turned weeds off to get a baseline measurement of the yield. So we're going to repeatedly, I've saved the game at this point, we're going to repeatedly plant this field with weed and treat it in different ways. The things that we're going to try: so weeds off, see what yield we get. Weeds on, and I'm going to do nothing. Weeds on, and I'm going to plow, so that means we won't get any weeds growing at all. We're going to see what happens to the yield. Weeds on, and then not plowed, and we are going, so that makes weeds grow, and then we're going to do mechanical weeding and spraying herbicide and see what effect it has on the yield. I did this in FS22, but only with precision farming, and I'm really curious to see what happens with the base game. Obviously, precision farming is on the way, and no doubt I'm going to end up repeating this to see what happens with precision farming, but I'm really curious to see what happens with the base game, partly because I've got a field with weeds in it and I want to see what I should do. Should I leave it? Should I spray herbicide on it? And I think the results of this are quite interesting. Now, there's every chance that other creators have already done this test. I haven't watched what their results were, so I recommend, if others have, that you go see their results as well, because different people might do the testing in different ways. So this field was at the harvested state. It did not require lime, it did not require ploughing. Once I had seeded it, I rolled it. Once it got to the next growth state, I fertilized it, so we had both fertilization states on the field. Was not mulched. Yep. And from our first control test, we got 10,694 litres of wheat. So reloaded the game, turned weeds on. So you see now, weeds are on, everything else is the same. Actually had lime required switched off for all the testing, so it doesn't matter that the field didn't need lime. As long as we're consistent, it doesn't matter. And I'm reloading the same save game at every point here. So okay, so we're in the field. It's telling us that the yield bonus is plus 77% versus the plus 97% that we had for our baseline testing. I really don't pay much attention to that, because what I'm interested in is how much crop do we actually get off of the field. That's the important number here, because then we can compare the difference. That's really the thing, because giants measure yield percentages quite weirdly. So we're just going to harvest the crop and see what we get, and I'll do a summary table at the end showing all of the differences, or all of the amounts and the relative differences, because really what I was interested in is how much do we lose if we treat the field in different ways, and therefore, do you really want to, is there a penalty if you apply herbicide? How much is that penalty? Is it worth it or not? So now reloaded again, weeds are on, and we're ploughing the field. So if you're not aware, ploughing stops weeds growing, and if you caught the little spoiler there of the yield bonus, you will note the potential result coming up. But again, we'll get the field combined. All of these numbers are going in a table that you'll see at the end. Now, some of you will be thinking ahead for precision farming, and the fact that, assuming it doesn't change, there's an environmental score penalty for ploughing, and you'll say, well, I don't want to plough, I shouldn't plough, precision farming stops me ploughing. Well, unless giants change it, if you plough and then direct drill, that gets negated. So it's not in the spirit of precision farming, but you can plough, direct drill, and you don't take a negative impact in terms of environmental score, in the same way that you can just drive into the edge of the field. No, it doesn't work. You had to drive over the whole field and apply no herbicide. So if there were no weeds in the field, if you covered the whole field with no fertilizer using See and Spray, you got the full environmental bonus without any impact. And so we're now doing mechanical weeding. I believe this is a hoe rather than a weeder, but all the same. And I'm doing this straight after planting. Instantly the weeds start growing. And you can do it at this stage. It's probably the best stage to do it. It's the least realistic because there's nothing showing, but it works. And now in the combine and weeding it at that stage, no weeds grew at all. We didn't need to do anything else. So I had rolled it, fertilized it, and yep, you will see we got exactly the same yield as if we had plowed it and there were no weeds. So last test, applying herbicide. This herbicide sprayer, or this sprayer, is actually the same width at least as the field. So we're going to apply herbicide, fully grown large weeds, and we will then skip ahead, combine it, and look at all of the results. So basically, so far, having weeds in the field gives you about 11% hit on yield. Everything else gives us the same yield. So if we plow or if we weed mechanically, we don't have any impact on yield. So those, in my view, are the better things to do. Precision farming, we'll look at it again. We'll talk about the games you can play to maintain your environmental score if you really care about that. So 9,822 litres this time. A lot less. So let's now have a look at the results that we got. So baseline, we are looking at 10,694 litres. As I said, that was with weeds turned off completely. I'm going to skip ahead now. If we ploughed or if we did mechanical weeding, we got exactly the same. No impact on the yield. Depending on how you play, you might want to think about using something like I did, the Lizard MT, the cheaty plough. Just plough the field. Job done. Job's good. Run it backwards like I was doing. You can plough the field pretty quickly. You're sorted. Good to go. Or get one of the bigger mechanical weeders again. Or turn weeds off if you don't want to deal with weeds. Then we have the two cases where we had an impact. Do nothing. We took an about 11% hit on, I call it 10%, 89.9%. We got 89.9% of the yield. So let's call it just over 10% impact on yield. If we applied herbicide, we got 92.4% of the crop. So applying herbicide increases the amount of crop you're going to get by about 3%. And that's the difference that you get is about 3% more. The actual numbers that you're seeing there are about 2.5%. I know, but 9,882% is 3% more than 9,681%. So the thing that you've got to think about if you're doing this is, particularly if you've got a small farm and you don't own a sprayer, maybe you've got one field, is it worth you leasing spraying equipment, buying spraying equipment for that extra 3% of crop? In this case, we got an extra 200 litres of wheat. Is it worth the cost of applying herbicide for 200 litres of wheat? Probably not. You're probably better just to leave it, take the hit and yield. You're only looking at just over 1,000 litres less, but just leaving the weeds. So small scale farming, you might be better to just leave it. Once you go bigger scale and those numbers, those amounts of crop get bigger, probably starts to become worth it. I'll leave that up to you to think about. But yeah, sort of the summary is plowing, mechanical weeding, no impact on yield. And then if you apply herbicide, you are recovering about 3% of the loss over doing nothing. But it's quite a big hit still on your yield. Anyway, hope you found this useful. If you did, click the like button. Thank you to the patrons and the YouTube channel members for supporting the channel. Any questions, stick them below, and I will see you all next time.